I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to those of you who've chosen to stay. I know that this is the last meeting separating us from happy hour. Frankly, if you've got them, drink them. That's fine with me. Let's get going here. I'm going to waive the roll call, and we'll mark everyone's attendance. I'm Forrest Bennett, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. Before we get going, I need a motion to approve Actually, I need a motion to waive the quorum requirement. Thank you, Paul. So moved. Seconded. All in favor? Resounding. A resounding yes. Now I need a motion to approve the March 11th, 2023 committee meeting minutes, and then a second. Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Another overwhelming decision. All right, we'll start today with a discussion on proposed amendments to the NCOIL Insurance E-Commerce Model Act. The amendments are sponsored by Louisiana Representative Edmund Jordan, who unfortunately isn't here today, but he'll be arriving tomorrow. You can view the amendments on page 139 through 141 in your NCOIL hymnals, and they're on the website and app as well. We won't be voting today on these amendments, but I think it's likely that we will probably vote on this in November after today's discussion. With us here today is Molly Zito of United Healthcare and Wes Bissett of Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America, who can provide some background on this issue and the amendments and speak to their respective positions. Molly, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. As Chairman Bennett said, my name is Molly Zito. I am a Deputy General Counsel for Regulatory Affairs for United Healthcare. I wanted to thank Representative Jordan, I know he's not here today, for putting forth this amendment to NCOIL's E-Commerce Model Act. You know, beneficiaries of employer-sponsored health benefit plans are digital savvy, and they're very familiar with e-delivery in many facets of their lives. Utility bills come that way, credit card bills, even personal lines insurance. And, you know, people have come to expect that they can access their documents easily on their phones and their computers. So what this amendment does is it mirrors an ERISA safe harbor that allows employers to attest that their employees are digital savvy and, wired at work, and then they will be defaulted into electronic delivery of their health benefit plans. So although the amendment allows for default electronic delivery of health benefit plans, it does allow an individual to opt out to receive paper copies. And again, this mirrors an ERISA safe harbor that is currently in place. The ERISA safe harbor, though, is more administratively burdened in that it requires the employer to determine who's opting in and out, and what this one does is it has the insurer actually keeping track of that. So again, wanted to thank Representative Jordan, and we hope that the committee members can support this amendment when it does come up for adoption, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much. We'll be holding questions until after both speak. Wes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Wes Bissett, Senior Counsel, Government Affairs for the National Big I. I will be brief. I know some of you maybe want to get to a particular concert tonight and want to pregame ahead of time, so just in case, I'll be quick. I would echo the very positive things that Molly said about Representative Jordan. He was the original sponsor of the underlying model and of these particular amendments. I thought we heard some very good testimony from Molly just now and from her and her colleagues in San Diego talking about how these amendments and these changes in the law ought to mirror what a number of states have already done in the existing 20-plus years in place now, ERISA, wired at work, safe harbor. We don't object in any way whatsoever to the purpose and objective of these amendments, and strongly agree with the other interested party testimony that we've heard in San Diego and today, that these changes really ought to mirror what ERISA, the ERISA wired at work safe harbor looks like, what a number of states have done. The only thing we note is that some of the elements in that ERISA safe harbor and in the state laws that have passed recently that we view as important are not yet in the bill. And so we, Mr. Chairman, are looking forward to working with Molly, other interested parties, obviously the sponsor, Representative Jordan. I'll give you the one particular issue that we're focused on. States that have addressed this topic typically require that a covered person be provided with a notice as part of that opt-out opportunity that informs them of things like the types of notices and documents that would be provided pursuant to this, that would require the notice to explain, and then require that that the employee have an ability to obtain a paper copy of any notice, withdraw their consent, and also importantly, if they don't want their work email address to be the one where they're receiving these documents, to provide an alternative email. And I don't think that those are objectionable to Molly or other interested parties, so I suspect that we'll be working together, and we'd hope, I think, well in advance of the November meeting, have a product that can hopefully be voted on and approved by this group.
Thank you both so much. Really appreciate that. I'll open the conversation up to legislators now. Does everyone have questions or comments, or more likely comments in the form of a question? All right. Next, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you both. I think I do agree. I think we'll be ready to vote on this in November. And if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me. Actually, it says me or Representative Jordan, but since he's not here, reach out to him. Next on our agenda is a discussion of a resolution in support of existing law exemptions for new data privacy laws, a resolution which I am sponsoring. You can view the resolution in your binders on page 145, and it is also on the website and app. We've had a productive conversation on this issue at our meeting this past March in San Diego, and I think this resolution is a positive step forward in those discussions. The resolution is fairly straightforward. Essentially, it recognizes that many states have been and are continuing to develop data privacy laws, Oklahoma included, and it calls for states that are considering such legislation to incorporate certain exemptions that recognize the requirements that clinical researchers must already comply with. And I want to reiterate that this is about requirements that clinical researchers must already comply with, so that there aren't duplicative and conflicting data privacy mandates. Depending on how the discussion goes today, we could vote today, or we could wait until after the until November. One minor change I'd like to make to the resolution is really just shifting some existing language around. So if you look on the second page of the resolution, where it says, "Be it now further resolved," paragraph, the language, quote, "not already subject to such framework," unquote, is proposed to be deleted, and then a bullet point below that would read, "entities or information already subject to existing legislative data privacy regimes." So it's not a substantive change, it's really just moving existing language around. So with that, I'd love to hear from our speakers, and then I'll open things up to legislators. In fact, I think we only have one speaker on this, and that's J.P. Weisky of Horizon Government Affairs.
Yeah, yes, thank you. And thank you for sponsoring. We really appreciate this work. Specifically, the issue that we're facing in the states, this is meant to be guidance to legislators as you're looking at data privacy frameworks. And just as an example, my understanding is late amendments in a Montana bill will result, until it's fixed, with Montanans not being able to be eligible for clinical trial data going forward, that there will be no clinical trials in Montana. And those are sort of the problems that we're facing, I think, in the states. The member companies that we work with have a number of issues in the states where they've had to fix this ad nauseum on a state-by-state basis as data privacy comes up. And so our hope is this language will serve as some guidance inside states that are looking to do data privacy frameworks. And again, I think part of the idea, we went out to all the interested parties we could find and see if there's any concerns. I think hopefully we addressed them all, and would be happy to answer any questions and would appreciate your support. So thank you.
Thank you so much, JP. Any questions or comments from the legislators? I wanted to, based on the discussion, and it doesn't seem like there will be much today, entertain a motion to go ahead and vote on this, since we have discussed it over the last few meetings. So if you feel confident moving forward, please move for a vote. Okay. It appears we do not have a vote. So moved. Do we have a second? Thank you. We have multiple seconds. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, nay. I think the ayes had it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, JP. Appreciate it. Next on our agenda is a discussion and likely consideration of the NCOIL Federal Home Loan Bank Insurer Member Model Act, which is sponsored by Senator Travis Holdman, the NCOIL immediate past president, and co-sponsored by Mississippi Senator Walter Michael. You can see the model on page 150 in your binders and on the website and app. It is likely that we'll be voting on this model today, as we have received no comments in opposition on this issue since we began discussing it in November of last year. Unfortunately, Senator Holdman couldn't be here today, but he asked his fellow Hoosier, Representative Lehman, that's what it says on the script. Either Will or ChatGPT wrote it. It's pretty much the same thing. To speak on his behalf, Representative Lehman, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm glad to once again carry Senator Holman's water. If you're ever come to the state of Indiana, you'll see that's all I ever do. But thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. It's a fairly straightforward issue that's received no opposition in the states that they've already dealt with this. It's just nice that we're bringing this now as a model. Speakers we have today can provide you with a bit more detail. Essentially, the law is passed in over 20 states. It's allowing the Federal Home Loan Bank to more efficiently assess insurance companies' collateral in certain situations, results in those banks being able to lend insurers money to more favorable terms to the states that have those laws. So I think it's just bringing some great parity. When states have dealt with this issue, types of laws have been passed with no opposition. It seems like something ripe for NCOIL to take up as a national model. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I'll turn it over to my guests that are here to tell them a little more detail.
Thank you, Representative Lehman. I do want to thank Will for his help in getting this put together. And as was mentioned, this topic has been discussed at prior meetings. I think Will put me at the end of the day, so I'd be quick. So for those unfamiliar with the Federal Home Loan Bank system, we were created by Congress in response to the Great Depression, where our mission is to provide liquidity to financial institutions, banks, credit unions, insurance companies, and CDFIs. We do that by lending money and taking in return collateral that is often housing-based. Under the Federal Deposit Insurance Act, home loan banks have exemptions from both stay and voidable preferences. Those are not afforded to our insurance company members, so this legislation is designed to give our insurance company members parity with banks. We have passed this now in 25 states, Mississippi, I think, being the most recent, going into effect July 1st of this year. We view this as beneficial to insurance companies in the states that have passed it. They're able to have more favorable terms on their collateral, which opens up additional liquidity for those insurance companies. I'll turn it over to my colleague to just briefly mention her experience.
I'm just here for moral support. I see my colleagues from Ohio. That was the first state of our three that passed this legislation. And if anyone has any questions to its effectiveness, I'm happy to answer those. Thank you.
Really appreciate both of you, and I skipped over, and I so apologize for this. Senator Michael, would you like to add some comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Walter Michelle. I chair the Senate Insurance Committee in Mississippi that you just referred to, and we passed very similar legislation to this past session, and we found that it improved the loan process for our insurance companies, which provided additional liquidity for catastrophic events like tornadoes or hurricanes or hail storms, and it offered more favorable loan terms to our member insurers. We had great support in the legislation. Our insurance commissioner was very much on board, and I support this model act. Chairman Bennett recommended the committee members consider introducing it in their own states as well.
Thanks so much, Senator. Any other questions or comments from the panel? I want to just say to both of you, and I have to read it out, Derek Aiken of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas and Melissa Dallas of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati, please thank you both for attending and being here. All right. Finally, we will, well, actually, so I will entertain a motion to pass. So moved. Second? Seconded? All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much, members of the committee. We will place that on the Executive Committee's agenda for final ratification. Last on our agenda is a discussion on the resolution in support of establishing national standards and procedures for the reporting and payment of premium taxes as a result of interstate insurance transactions. You can view a draft of this resolution on page 147, and it's on the website and app. We will hear from Bill Bryan of Providence Insurance Partners. Bill, thank you so much for being here. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't see Representative Oliverson, and I'm actually quite glad because that means I can take full responsibility for the draft of the resolution, which needs some work, frankly. It was submitted pretty close to the meeting, close enough that didn't really have a chance to get the feedback that we got from several people who asked some good questions and raised some issues as to clarity, I would say, primarily. As to the intent and ultimate impact of the resolution. So with everyone's agreement involved, I've decided to make some revisions that will not only clarify, but I think also narrow the intent of the resolution down to sort of what we really were trying to accomplish in the first place, and then represent it at the fall meeting.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from other legislators? Questions or comments? I had occasion to speak with you a little bit about this last night, and I think I wrapped my head around it. But if you wouldn't mind, just kind of, you've put a lot of work into this, and you've had quite an eclectic career. So it's incredible that you've arrived here. Can you kind of just explain what the end game is, what the bottom line is for this?
Yeah, the core idea. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The core idea is really to make it. First of all, let me just say what it isn't briefly, and then I'll say what it is. What it's not is any attempt to change in any way, shape, or form how insurance may be obtained, how the direct procurement rules work in any state. That's all subject to, there's statutes, there's legal decisions, there's all that, and we have no intention or hope of ever doing anything different about that. Taxation is also quite clear. There's established rules on that. And I think there may have been some suggestion or some implication in the previous draft that there was going to be some impact in terms of more reporting requirements or compelling reporting that some parties who raised objections were not comfortable with. The sole purpose or the core purpose of this effort is to facilitate the payment of direct procurement taxes by insureds when they are owed in a efficient and easily determined manner. There's not currently a uniform national standard for that. Some states it's quite simple and easy, and in those states the insureds that we have encouraged to report and pay those taxes have had an easy time doing so. In other states it is less so, and we are hoping that NCOIL can help lead the effort to standardize those things. Again, it's not going to change anything legally as to anyone's obligation, as to those obligations exist. If you directly procure insurance, you, the insured party, are responsible for paying the procurement tax to your state of domicile. We just want to make it clearer, simpler, easier to do that so that people can be in compliance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bryan. I appreciate someone being willing to spend a lot of time at the intersection of taxation and insurance, where everyone wants to spend time.
Well, thank you.
Senator Hackett.
Yeah, and Bill, I appreciate last night you explained. I mean, just for the people to know, our treasurer came from the state of Ohio. He was here last night, and we talked with him and Bill. In Ohio, of course, we pay premium taxes, and the companies pay it, and they pass it on to the consumer and on their products. And so, can you explain a little how it would change in Ohio, where it possibly could change?
Senator,
and you'd have consistency across the country.
Yes, thank you, Senator. There actually, the obligation for the reporting and collection of premium taxes is different depending on the way that insurance is placed. In the most conventional way, with conventional placement of insurance through a registered licensed insurer in a state, That's clear how that's done. The companies report and pay. In surplus lines, it's quite similar. Also in that case, the brokers collect and remit. In independent procurement, which is the third and least known method of obtaining insurance, that is not the method. The method, because the actual burden for payment falls upon the insured and not on anybody else, and so it's a self-reporting, self-paying function. And again, there are some tools that are quite useful and sophisticated. Florida developed a piece of software they call SLIP. It's an acronym. Actually, the SL refers to surplus lines, but the software in the portal works for both surplus lines and direct procurement. In Florida, Georgia, and other states that are using that, it's pretty straightforward and useful. But they're also, as an example, Georgia licensed the software, had it in place, but didn't have anything on their DOI website to explain how to access it and use it. So it took us a while to interact with them and to get that cleaned up, and now it's working very well in both of those states, as well as in others that have other systems that are effective. And the treasurer, I thank you for mentioning Treasurer Sprague. He did join us last night, and he's very, as somebody who is charged with balancing the books in Ohio, is eager to participate in something that's going to clear up, it's going to make this, make tax collection more regular and efficient.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Mr. Bryan, again, thank you so much for
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I understand that you acknowledge this needs some work, and so we'll probably continue working on this in the next meeting and hopefully have a better resolution to look at in a few months.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any other business for the committee? I would like to raise for potential consideration by this committee going forward the earned wage access provider market. You may have heard about this issue in your state, but essentially these are providers who grant workers access to wages that have already been earned before their scheduled payday. You may have seen ads for these products, but they are not well regulated yet, and a few states have taken action and enacted laws with licensing and other provisions. And I think since this committee is the NCOIL committee with jurisdiction over banking issues, that this could be something worthwhile to discuss and consider developing some sort of model or resolution. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to myself or more likely, Will. Any other comments, questions, complaints? Nope, no complaints, actually. All right, well, I'd like the record to reflect that we started this meeting late and we're ending it early, and frankly, I deserve some accolades for that. Yeah, thank you. All right, may I hear a motion for adjournment? So moved, seconded, so done, thank you.